My unit, how you doing? Hopefully everybody's rocking on this Wednesday. Do you want the lighthearted news first, or do you want to start this thing off on the little bit more serious side? Let's go lighthearted. Let's talk the Tony Khan big announcement for tonight's Dynamite. Let's go that route, and then later we'll talk the criticism that WWE is currently facing, criticism that BC feels is completely, obnoxiously, stupidly pathetic, because the individuals making a big deal out of this angle from this past Monday night's Raw, these individuals should know better. They've been in the game long enough. But it's 2023, and I guess everybody just yells, I'm offended, I'm offended. And I guess that's just what we do. It's a vicious cycle now. But we're going to talk about this angle from this past Monday and why there's certain individuals that are making a big deal about it and how WWE is facing criticism for it. And if you take this element away from pro wrestling, you're just helping put another nail into professional wrestling's coffin. That's all you're doing. This element cannot go away. We'll discuss that. That's a little bit more of an in-depth conversation, so I'll save that for the next story. We'll start off with the lighthearted story. And first, as you can see, the B-Rock Packer 5000 coffee machine is not needed right now. BC went and got a fresh, full, double shot, extra Dunkin'. So we are fully amplified to tackle these stories today. Tony Khan. You guys know, unfortunately, that pro wrestling ratings are in the trash, right? All of AEW, Dynamite, Collision, Rampage. Dynamite this week could not pull 800,000 viewers. Normal night, normal time slot. I don't care what competition you're going to throw at them. They could not pull 800,000 viewers. The big surprise for Sting, Nature Boy Ric Flair, the big matches. Not even 800,000. They put MJF, a massive gamble, a match that should have been at a pay-per-view, a match that should have been a main event at a major pay-per-view. MJF, Kenny Omega Championship, put it on Collision on a Saturday night, and they couldn't even pop 500,000 viewers. Not even with stiff competition would you ever think that that would not pull 500,000. The week before they had pretty decent competition, and they pulled over 500,000. They lost nearly 50,000 viewers with an Omega MJF massive championship main event match. Lost 50,000. You could have made a lot of money on that if you built that over 3 or 4 months and you put that in the main event of a major pay-per-view. It's a major gamble. The ratings show a more alarming issue because the match itself pulled in, I believe, the highest rating of the night. See, that's not the biggest issue. The shows in their totality are not keeping fans tuned in. It used to be they just wouldn't tune in for the whole show. Then they're missing half the show. Now the ratings are telling us that they're not even tuning in during halftime or during innings or during commercial breaks from the competition. That's the bigger issue. They don't even care enough to tune in. That's telling me that the product is just not good. Dynamite, Collision, Rampage. You can find them in the 300,000s in the ratings. Rampage literally needs to be taken off the air. Monday Night Raw, over on the WWE side, you put that right in the trash can with it. 3 weeks now, they have not pulled over 1-4. 2 weeks straight, 1-4, 1-4. And this past week, 1-3 some odd. I don't care what competition you're talking about. You're going to have football for a third. More of a third than the whole calendar year. You're always going to have competition or a holiday or a presidential speech or some election debate stuff. You're always going to have something. More than half the year, you're going to have some type of stiff competition. You have to put together your best product. WWE, under the Paul Levesque McMahon era, is averaging 1-4. The month of October, since Paul Levesque McMahon has been in charge, we have never seen numbers like this consistently for WWE's Raw. So add that in. SmackDown's not that far away, by the way. Ratings across the board. You can call it cord cutting. You can say people just want to watch highlights the next day. You can say that people just, they have other platforms. They're DVRing. The problem is they are not inclined to sit their asses down and watch live on their big screens. And until that metric is met, that tells us everything we need to know. Because there's still entities out there where people have their asses on the seat looking up at the big screen. There are still shows and entities in sports where their ratings are going up. WWE and AEW and pro wrestling, it's not just that ratings are going down. Well, BC, so is NASCAR, so is MLB. It's the alarming rate that they're going down, right? I mean, this is a fast downward trajectory. So what are we getting at, right? So for AEW, for instance, this has been a really rough week. They put together one of their dream match main events, and it doesn't even pop $500,000. They have the big surprise, Ric Flair and some other good matches on Dynamite, and it doesn't even pop 800,000. Rampage is fluttering around with 300,000 viewers. And we all joke when it gets this bad. We all have a joke in the community. Uh-oh, we're going to get a major announcement from Tony Khan, aren't we? Sure enough. Late last night, or evening, I should say, this was around 5 p.m., Tony Khan made a big announcement that he has a huge announcement for tonight's Dynamite. This is a ploy that he does to try to pop a rating, and you can't even player hate. The dude's, he's like Paul Heyman. They're like used car salesmen. They are the best used car salesmen in the business, probably the world, for many of us. They're either the best or the worst used car salesman, I should say. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But Tony Khan and Paul Heyman will sell ice cream to an Eskimo. They're just those individuals that will sell you a bag of goods every time you allow yourself to listen to them. And sometimes that bag is not filled with goods. Right? Paul Heyman made ECW on the back of a lot of lies. Right? The talent will tell you that. A lot of that talent still to this day hasn't been paid what they should have been paid. There was months that were going by where checks were bouncing and they were not getting paid. But Paul Heyman was so good at selling them a bag of goods. This is the one, kid. This is the big one tonight, kid. We're all going to get paid. That they kept coming back. Paul Heyman was that good. Tony Khan, no matter what interview he does, no matter when he speaks, you hear 1,000 times, you gotta tune in to Dynamite tonight. Big announcements, dream matches, big surprises. You never know what's gonna happen. Tonight, you gotta tune in, right? Rampage, Friday, you're gonna see X, Y, and Z. Collision is not, you can't miss it because of A, B, and C. But then the shows go on, and I'm not saying they're bad, but nothing was delivered. Where's the surprises? What are you talking about? It was can't miss, must see. What do you mean that was a huge announcement? Because that's what he does. When ratings get really low, he announces a big announcement. And at first, it used to pop $1 million in viewership, right? He would actually bring viewers in because people were interested. Oh, the boss is going to make a huge announcement. But over time, because each announcement got less and less in value, right? He could not deliver. Every time he had a big announcement, it was a very small delivery. That's what she said. But the point is, every single time he would make an announcement that was supposed to be huge, he could not deliver on it. So over time, you started to see viewership decline when he announced a big announcement. When he used to pop $1 million, now he's pulling 975, 950, went to 925, 875 on the last big announcement. Because it's like the boy that cried wolf. You keep claiming something and everybody believes you, so it brings everybody to the yard. But eventually, if your claims go unwarranted and there's no truth to them, eventually people will stop showing up to attend to your claims. And sure enough, that's what started to happen. Huge announcement, everybody. Tune into Dynamite. No, less people started to view. They started to go, yeah, well, I'll check it out tomorrow. I'll hear about it through the grapevine. I'm sure I'll come across it on a dirt sheet. That's what started to happen. So the ratings were really bad this week. Exceptionally bad. And there was a big joke over the last couple of days. Oh, Tony Khan's going to come out with a big announcement. Watch. Sure enough, at around 5 p.m. last night, Tony Khan says, and I quote, tomorrow, November 1st, that's tonight, TBS Network, 8 p.m., Wednesday Night Dynamite, I have an important announcement. So not huge. He didn't use the word huge this time. It's an important announcement. For many of us, tomorrow is the start of the holiday season. And I'll have an important announcement for AEW fans worldwide tomorrow, November 1st, on Wednesday Night Dynamite. Now, usually what he announces is something that could easily and should be placed in a press release. That way you're not hyping something up and you can't deliver, right? That's clickbait to the most ultimate form. And when you're the owner of the second biggest wrestling company like AEW, you can't do things like that. He does it all the time. He's hyped up huge announcements and it ended up being a reality show, for instance, right? When 2 weeks earlier, WWE sent out a press release about Montez Ford and Bianca Belair doing a reality show. Because you don't want to hype that up and make that a delivery on Monday Night Raw. Because fans would get excited. Oh, this is going to be big. What is this big announcement? Montez and Bianca are having a reality show. Oh, whoa, groundbreaking. But Tony tries to pop that rating. Again, you can't hate the player in this instance as far as trying, right? I mean, he's willing to hustle for that rating. He's just not learning that doing the same thing over and over and you keep failing or it keeps getting worse, maybe you should try something different. So I love the hustle and the work ethic of Tony Khan. He just isn't learning the lesson every time he fails. Like BC's made a billion mistakes. I really try not to make the same one twice. Tony makes it a million times. He's so stubborn. And it's almost like, I hate to use this because I know a lot of people do, but it is almost like the rich kid that always got his way and was never told no or never really knew failure because even when he failed, he was coddled by those around him. And this is the first big failure that he's coming across, and he just refuses to do something different because he knows his way's the right way. And that's what it comes across as. So you're delivering things like reality shows, for instance, and then you wonder why nobody's really coming around for your big announcements anymore. Now you have an important announcement. You can't just put this on a press release. But when things get so bad ratings-wise, and you have to stoop to these measures, you know the problem is bigger than most originally thought. So I say it's a lighthearted story because I know we all get a laugh out of this, right? Uh-oh, it's Tony with another huge, important announcement tonight, right? It's probably just going to be an event is going somewhere, right? Maybe Australia is going to get an event. He said worldwide. So somebody's going to get a show or something, right? Or a pay-per-view is coming, right? When worlds collide, part 2, I don't know. You're hyping this up. Again, the biggest issue here is it's the boy that cried wolf. You're going to turn a lot of people off when you keep doing this. They're no longer going to believe your huge, important announcement. So we all laugh. I know when the ratings were really bad this week, we all said, uh-oh, Tony's coming with a huge announcement. And then like clockwork, man, like noon every day, Tony Khan's right there to give the big announcement that he's got a huge announcement. So we laugh at it. Yes, it is funny. But there's a more serious side to it. And it sucks that it's even gotten to the level where he needs to do that. Or he thinks he needs to do these type of low-handed tricks to try to trick people into watching his show. Tune in. I got a big announcement. We're going to be going overseas somewhere. All right. We're going to put on a big show. Awesome. Whoa. Groundbreaking. Man, if you could have just told us 24 hours ago when you put out the original statement. I don't know if we had to tune in on primetime television to find out. But that's what Tony does. So you're going to be seeing a lot of that. I don't know when this is going to go up to you guys, man. I don't know how long before Dynamite, but That's a real thing. Tony is already coming up with the huge announcement, the important announcements, and he's going to try to pop that rating way more than the lower than 800 he popped last week. I mean, if he can just get back to 900, I'm sure he'll be happy with this big announcement. But that's the lighthearted news. I know we couldn't laugh the whole way through because there is a more serious side to that, and that does have to stop. You know, because when you really do have a huge announcement, a big name is there in the something like that, a big signing, when you do have that, nobody's going to be there to listen by that point. Boy, that cried wolf, man. It's one of the most interesting stories. And it's kind of playing itself out in AEW. So, that's the lighthearted story, whether it seemed it or not, because it's also kind of sad as well that the ratings are where they are and that Tony thinks he has to do this. But it is a little funny that here we go again with the huge announcement. Now for the serious talk, we got to go over to WWE for this. Let me get a swig of coffee, because I got a lot to say about it. You thought I got a lot to say about this? Wait till you hear this, because this has to do with one of my favorite females in the industry, Xia Li. So, and let me get his actual quote too. So, in case you missed it, this past Monday, Xia Li took on Candice LeRae. Now, Xia Li has not been on TV for many, many months. There's a famous story out there that Xia Li pulled Paul Levesque aside a couple of years ago. She was not happy, and she wasn't happy with Paul Levesque McMahon specifically for some. So they had a big disagreement, and the word was that afterwards it wasn't all hunky-dory. Like, Xia was still pissed at Paul Levesque McMahon, and H was pissed at Xia. I mean, since Xia has said positive, like everybody, they say positive things about Paul Levesque, right? I mean, that's their boss. So she said nice things, but that story still stuck around, that there was nothing that ever really debunked that story, that even after the meeting, they were just not happy with each other. And sure enough, Xia Li's been a complete afterthought. Even when Paul Levesque McMahon took over, she kind of was, and I'm talking many, many months, not just even more control this month. Even beforehand, she was just kind of put on the back burner. A lot of people put before her, even people like Tegan Knox and whatnot. Recently, she started to show up on TV, right, backstage. They didn't know what they were doing. They just had her going across Becky, come across Tegan, come across Natty, come across Candice LeRae, Mia Yim, you know, just anywhere. Just and then we'll try to place the puzzle piece where we think it fits best. So that led to finally her being back on TV in the ring this past Monday against Candice LeRae. Now, I told you guys we did a live stream beforehand, little preview to Raw. And I told you guys on that live stream, that was a channel membership chat, so I had my gold cards there. So we were all on the same page as to what needed to happen, right? You can love Candice LeRae, but there's no way Xia Li can lose that match. Xia Li, I always call her the Brock Lesnar for the female division. She's that realistic and believable. And that's how she should be booked. And this past Monday, booked beautifully. Beautifully. To this moment, it's a Wednesday morning right now. And to this moment, a lot of people don't know if that was a work or a legit injury to Candice LeRae. I mean, that's how good this was. And I told you guys, even if that came out to be a legit injury, Candice was coming in full head of steam, perfect roundhouse. That's one of those wrestling accidents where, like Goldberg taking out Bret Hart with that kick. No, that's absolute negligence. Nia Jax injuring 10 other females, a couple of them a couple of times. That's recklessness. But Xia Li is just believable, and she expects you to be on the same page. She can only dumb herself down so much. So you got to raise your bar when you're in there with Xia. I love that. So I said, even if it was, unfortunately, a real injury, I'm not putting any blame on Xia. That's one of those wrestling accidents. But to BC and to many of us, that looked like a straight work. Candice LeRae, to her credit, looked like she sold the fuck out of that. Candice LeRae, the whole thing live to BC looked like a complete work. And Candice was just rocking it. Xia looked amazing, realistic, believable, badass. Candice LeRae selling it beautifully for Xia. Everybody playing their role perfectly. The ref, the X, the medical, everything was perfect. So then we go over the next 12 hours up front, not even 24, right? Everybody wakes up the next day. Everyone's like, oh, you know, my BC's about to do the review. And I'm seeing this criticism that WWE is taking, right? It's 2023. You know you're offending people, right? Anything you say, it's going to offend people because it's 2023. It's what we do, right? So that angle ended up being a big hot topic. Not because Xia Li was so badass looking or the work that Candice LeRae put in. It became a criticized angle because they should not have done it. So PC was like, I'm sorry, what do you mean they shouldn't have done the angle? That's exactly how you book Xia Li, and Candice LeRae loses nothing. She got caught with a... That's more effective than a roll-up out of nowhere. She should not have been getting rolled up, right? Because we see so many roll-ups, and it doesn't do anything for the person that did the roll-up or the person that got rolled up. Nobody remembers it 2 minutes later. Nobody. It doesn't help anybody. This... Xia Li, the way she just knocked her out, beautiful. That puts everybody on notice like a casual fan to look at Xia and go, oh yeah, she's a real threat. She is badass. She is somebody to watch going forward. Xia Li. And Candice LeRae loses nothing. She got caught with the roundhouse, square where it should have been. She got knocked out. Some UFC type shit. Cool. Cool. You're going to remember that. And you're going to remember that Candice LeRae didn't get pinned or anything. She just got caught. No, it was heavily criticized. And come to find, and I really didn't know. I didn't know why. I didn't know how. I said why because because they dedicated time to an injury storyline. Isn't that what we need that's what is needed in pro wrestling. That's rhetorical. It is needed. And then you had somebody like Marcus Henry. That's right, Mark Henry. Call him Marcus on the channel. Marcus Henry comes out and he says, and this is somebody who's on one of these podcasts that gets a lot of listeners, I guess. So that's why this became an even bigger topic, right? Because, oh boy, here we go. Now these podcasts are going to talk about how Xia Li shouldn't have done that. WWE should not have went with that story angle or with the way they went about business. So then he goes on this popular podcast. I don't even know. What is it? Busted Radio. Oh, that's the same one. Isn't that with Bubba too? Who says a lot of dumb stuff? Anyway, so then they make it a bigger deal, and the criticism for WWE gets bigger on this angle, and I'm sure it's not going to help Xia Li or Candice LeRae. Marcus Henry says, and I quote, "It's such a serious thing that I don't want pro wrestling to make plays on the concussions. We need to have people to really acknowledge and know, okay, this is not wrestling. So if you make plays on it, it's distracting and it's confusing. And I feel like somebody might actually have a concussion and they won't be diagnosed. You know what I'm saying?" End quote. I have no idea at all what you are saying. At all. What are you saying, Marcus Henry? I feel it's distracting and confusing, and I feel like somebody might actually have a concussion and they won't be diagnosed. Is that just because that happened in your company because you have untrained referees? You have ignorant referees in AEW, right? AEW referees are the worst. I've actually changed the channel because I couldn't put up with the antics of referees in AEW. Literally. Their over-dramatic facial expressions, their embellished movements. They don't know the rules. They're not trained properly, so they don't even know when they can call for the bell and when not. Tag matches become tornado tag, and the referee sits in the corner and he does the Macarena like he's actually telling them to do things. He's like, you could do the whole Macarena dance. And nobody's listening to him. Nobody's getting out of the ring, nothing. It's just a straight tornado tag at that point, and he's got no control. And in fact, he's just over-embellishing the movement. So when you got six, either it's a straight tag or a six-man tag, eight-man tag, everybody's in the ring, but it's the referee that's stealing the show with all his antics, right? They're so over-dramatic, and they're just really, really bad at their job. Everybody knows that. If you've ever caught an AEW show, the referees are the worst. So Jon Moxley recently actually got concussed. He got really messed up in a match. Who was that? Phoenix, I believe, was in there with him. And he took the driver. And the match was supposed to end right then. Not supposed to, but it was an audible. I mean, it was clear. The referee should have known that. Everybody should have known that. Mox was just done. And the referee stops his count. Never do that. In WWE, there's a rule. If they ain't kicking out, you still count anyway. It's an audible by the ref. WWE rules, and I love it. Makes the product realistic, right? You're not taking everybody out of the believable realm in a situation where we're trying to suspend the disbelief. Or as I call it, suspending belief. So in WWE, there's a rule. If they ain't kicking out, you count anyway. In AEW, no, he just stopped the count. Nobody kicked out, not even close. And everybody's like, okay, the referee should not be botching. It was bad. And it forced Mox to take another driver, and he was messed up even more. Mox was pissed. He told the ref to fuck off in the ring live. He was pissed at that ref for justified reasons. So now because of that, is that why Marcus Henry doesn't want to see it in World Wrestling Entertainment? Because now we are treading on very thin lining, my friend. Very, very trepid thin waters is what we are now walking on. Because where does it end? People pass out all the time. IRL, right? In pro wrestling, wrestlers pass out. It's happened many times. Does that mean Shawn Michaels shouldn't have done that angle against Owen Hart on live television? Remember when Shawn Michaels passed out because he needed time off? So they did this whole angle that Michaels passed out in the middle of the ring. Does that mean that should have never happened? Because that was clutch. That's a moment that'll live on to the end of time, and it's perfect for pro wrestling. But nobody can pass out anymore in a wrestling ring because people actually pass out? And you're not going to know if it's a work or not, Marcus Henry? How are you not going to know, bro? People have heart attacks all the time. Jerry Lawler, right after a match, took an elbow from Dolph Ziggler, got back on commentary, heart attack. Does that mean no heel in the wrestling business can hold his chest anymore in a heelish way? Get a few seconds to regroup and replan? Play a little bit of possum, right? He's holding his chest. Hold on, this is the big one. Hold on. This is bigger than the match. Even the face is a little concerned what is happening, and he gets the poke to the eyes or the kick to the groin. We can't do that in pro wrestling anymore because people actually have heart attacks. So people can't pass out, people can't have heart attacks, and concussions happen all the time. Any sport. You could walk outside your house and fall down the steps and get a concussion. Kids that are not even playing sports get concussions. It happens. So in pro wrestling, you cannot do a knockout angle anymore. Think about what Marcus Henry is saying and how dramatically stupid it is. You can no longer do knockout segments in pro wrestling anymore. That's what he's telling you. Because all that was a knockout. Nobody was even talking concussion. When BC saw it, I was just thinking a knockout. Boom, got it right. It doesn't always lead to I hope you guys understand. Just because somebody gets knocked out, it doesn't necessarily mean concussion. I know a lot of times it equates to it eventually, right? And it's diagnosed as such. Not all the time. Many individuals will tell you they got knocked out, not concussed. Got you in the right fucking spot. You were done. So the fact that you're jumping to a concussion conclusion, first of all, that's on you. Second of all, this is pro wrestling, bro. You're going to have knockouts. You're going to have referee stoppages, and it's going to have to be above the shoulders. So I don't know what Marcus Henry is on, what he's smoking, what he's doing on this little podcast. I don't know. But this is a horrible take. Horrible take. And I shouldn't be surprised because, again, I think this is the same show with Bubba, who's got some really bad takes in the pro wrestling world. But to say that WWE should be harshly criticized because of what they did Monday with Xia Li and Candice, bullshit. How dare you strip away the elements of pro wrestling that is the foundation to which pro wrestling was built upon? How dare you? So now you're taking away the knockout angles because concussions are a real thing. Where does it end? I snapped my elbow in a football game, snapped it clear off, fractured it, and dislocated it simultaneously. Talk about an injury. Talk about an injury. Happens all the time in pro wrestling where they dislocate something, but you can't do that anymore. You can't sell the injury. Where's the line, right? Because now we're starting at concussions. You can no longer do knockout angles and ref stoppages anymore because people, according to Marcus Henry, they're not going to know if it's real or not. Who? The opponent's not going to know that he's rung for a loop? The referee isn't going to know that, hey, she shouldn't be laying down like that. Somebody's going to know this isn't the plan. If you're taking knockout storylines or angles out of professional wrestling, you don't have professional wrestling anymore. You never would have had things like Randy Orton's legend killer character. The whole point of Randy Orton was he went around punting the dome pieces of legends, knocking them square into next Tuesday. That's the best version of Randy Orton I've ever seen. That was the most fun Randy Orton, the legend killer, punting dome pieces. When Shawn Michaels passed out in the middle of the ring against Owen Hart, that was massively entertaining and amazing. And the time and the effort that went into it, man, they sold it. And we didn't see Michaels for a while. It blurred the lines. You're damn right it did. A lot of people to this day don't know if that was real or work. Not to tell you that Santa Claus isn't real or Tooth Fairy or anything like that, but no, that was a work. For sure, that was a work. Vince is in the ring crying. If it's up to people like Marcus Henry, you don't even have that anymore because this is a sensitive topic, he says. Concussions are a real thing. Don't make a play on it. Bro, you're in the wrong industry if you're telling professional wrestling companies not to make a play on knockouts. I think you need to revert to maybe badminton or ballet. Or maybe there's a twister league out there, right? National Twister League. National Twister Federation, right? The Monopoly Championships. Cover that. Maybe some Yahtzee. Maybe go sink somebody's battleship. Maybe connect 4 in a row. Little bit of checkers, little bit of chess. Cover anything else but pro wrestling. Because this is not for you, dude. If you're telling World Wrestling Entertainment that what they did with Xia Li and Candice LeRae is not good, it should have never been done. They should not make a play or make light of concussions. Nobody was. They were saying Xia Li is so badass, she just knocked this woman out. If you're taking that away from pro wrestling, we no longer have pro wrestling. Everybody, wrap it up. The channels are done. The platform for pro wrestling, the companies can all shut down now. Let's just stop right now. Pro wrestling's done. If we're going to stop angles like we just saw with Xia and Candice. It's done. Nothing more you can do. If you can't even knock your opponent out, it's done. The only thing left to do at this point, if it's up to people like Marcus Henry, is you make a rule that you can't even hit above the shoulders, right? It'll be like football. No helmet-to-helmet contact. No more anything above the shoulders. No DDTs, no punches to the head, no slaps, no nothing. Yeah, good luck. This is absolutely mind-numbingly stupid. So, anyway, that's something that needed to be discussed because there's no reason, as much as we rip pro wrestling's WWE apart for justified reasons most week because the shows are usually trash, there's no reason WWE should take that type of criticism. Even AEW, no pro wrestling company should take criticism for doing a knockout angle. None. What happened with Mox is just incompetence, and hopefully that organization has tidied it up. That's a type of sloppy shop that cannot be. But just because AEW got it completely, utterly, tragically wrong in that instance, don't punish the entire wrestling industry. Okay, Marcus Henry? That's appreciated if not. That's what I got for you guys, man. Keep this a little bit shorter. What is it? Just over half an hour? Well, there you go. Go about your Wednesdays, whoop that ass, and we'll have something for you hopefully tomorrow. A full amped up podcast, and we'll talk huge announcements. Sound good? Salute, unit. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC saying check you. Peace.